Hello, good day to you. I'd like to introduce you to myself. My name is Christopher John Briscoe. I'm an Englishman. That means I'm from England. Um, I lived, I have lived in South Korea for 23 years until now. I'm from Seoul. I'm living in Seoul. I have also lived in Bucheon, but mostly I've lived in Seoul. Um, I lived the first 30 years of my life in England, and then I lived the next 23 years of my life in South Korea. I'd like to tell you why I first became interested in South Korea. A lady from my home church in England, she had a book which she lent me, and she recommended it because she said it has an inspiring story written by a Korean pastor. His name is Mr. Cho Yong-gi, and he's the pastor of Yoedo Full Gospel Church. That's how I first came to know about Korea. I read his book. He wrote his book about the Korean War. About after the Korean War, he started his church in 1953. At that time, Seoul, most of the buildings were razed to the ground. They were demolished, destroyed because of the terrible war. And most people were hungry. Everyone was poor, really. Most people were hungry, were looking for food or looking for lost relatives. And he started a church ministering hope to people at that time. And he started a church from 5 members, and it grew in 30 years to 750,000 members. Now, that's how I came to know about South Korea. And through reading his book, I really wanted to come and visit the country. At that time, I had a car which I sold deliberately. I sold it because I wanted the proceeds from that money to go towards buying a ticket, which I was able to buy a full amount of ticket to South Korea. And I travelled to South Korea on November the 12th, and I arrived on November the 13th, and I stayed till Christmas Eve, around 6 weeks. And okay, I was really inspired by the number of churches and how strong the Christian church is in Korea. I was also struck by how warm-hearted Korean people are to foreigners like me. They treated me well. I met one man. I was taking a video of Yoedo, and I met one man on the street, and he started speaking to me in Korean. He didn't know much English except hello, how are you, like that. But he invited me to a bulgogi restaurant, and I met another Korean. He's in the church. I met him, and he invited me. He's a student, a university student, but he invited me to his house, to his home. I met his parents. I met his sister. He invited me to stay one night, and he took me to the movies, and things like that. And I felt really affected by how kind Korean people were. I felt Korean people still have in their core, they still have in their heart a pure spirit. Even though this nation is very developed, I mean, at that time it was about the eighth number economic strong power nation. Now it's 11. But anyway, I was really struck by how pure-hearted Korean people are, and people are still. And at that time, I realized, well, Korean people are not corrupted yet by capitalism, and they still have a childlike sense of child in them, and they look after each other. This country is an interdependent nation, not an independent people, but an interdependent people. They are interdependent on each other. They rely on each other. They're a family society still. It has its advantages, it has its disadvantages, but overall it's a good thing, right? People are not selfish. People are not just tunnel vision, independent. They're not just thinking about money all the time. They are interrelated with each other. Okay, so I was really enamored by the people of Korea. In Korean, you say 착하다. Korean people are 착하다, pure-hearted, 착해요. 너무너무 착해요. 너무너무 착하다. And I was enamored. Enamored, what does it mean? It means I really fell in love with the Korean people and I liked them so much I came to live here. That's the main reason why I came to live here. And I want to teach you that word in case you don't know that word, enamored. Okay? E-N-A-M-O-U-R-E-D. This is UK spelling. If you prefer the American spelling or Canadian or North American spelling, okay, just take the U out. Okay? It's a bit tricky. Okay, let me give you a tip in English. 2 tips actually, if I have time. 2 tips I want to give you. English tips. Number 1. It can be tricky. It can be tricky, these words. For example, many words have the U missing. F-L-A-O-R. This is USA spelling. Okay? The UK is of course F-L-A-V-O-U-R. Okay? The UK spelling, that is. Okay, let me give you a tip. Please remember, the U